Hey guys, this is Jake with American Clicker Press. I wanted to go over the function of the control elements for this machine. This is our manual traveling head machine with pinch rollers. This is the control panel. This is what you're going to be working with mostly on this machine. At the top is your power indicator. This indicates whether or not the machine's plugged in and has proper power. On the left side, you're going to see a cut counter. Now you can turn that off or on. That's simply so you can keep track of how many cuts you have. Let's say you need to do a run of 500 and your die cuts 10 at a time. Then you're going to want to make sure to do your cuts until this hits 50. Not necessary. Again, you can turn it off if you need to, just to stop being a distraction. Next element is the head traverse distance, or the head travel distance. You may have seen this in some of our previous videos. That's simply used to determine how far that head's going to move out of your way in between cuts. Next is the travel mode, manual or automatic. Again, that's an element of what you need to have the machine do for you. That traverse distance is only in automatic mode. If you have it in manual mode, you're going to do a compression and the head's going to stay right where it is and you'll have to move it with those buttons on either side. If you have it in automatic mode, it's going to do a compression and that head's going to sidestep out of the way a certain distance because of that dial, and that's going to determine the space you have to be able to access your material and get it out of the way. Next is the return height. This is used to determine how high that head's going to go between cuts. So with the manual traveling head, there is no automatic cut and then sidestep, but the operator, once they get familiar with these controls, can do a cut and then use the buttons on either side of the head to move the head. So you can do a cut, move the head, cut, move the head. This return height simply determines how high that head goes out of the way. So if you don't want to wait for the head to do a full travel distance each time, you can change that height to be just a little bit lower. That'll take some configuring. You'll have to get comfortable with it. Next one is the oil pump on or off. Right now we have it turned off so that you can hear me a lot more clearly. When you turn that on, you're going to hear that oil pump spin up. It's going to sound really loud and really obnoxious to begin with until it gets up to speed, until that flywheel gets up to speed, and then it'll sound nice and quiet and smooth. If you hear it have a different sound than that, pay attention. Make sure your oil's clean. Make sure that you've been lubricating it properly. If your machine is being commissioned for the first time, and you turn on the machine and that flywheel isn't spinning up to speed and your head's not doing compressions, it's possible that you have the legs swapped on your motor. So you'll need to have your electrician unwire the legs and swap them so the polarity is proper. Next element is the setting mode. This is simply how you set where the head needs to do a cut. So as I've said previously in the video, you'll turn this dial until it's loose. You'll go into setting mode and that will lower the head until it makes contact with your die and material, and then you'll tighten this handle again and turn setting mode off. This head, because it's so light, it's not like some of our other machines where it just lowers under its own weight. This one needs to be lowered under pressure. So when you do go into setting mode, and if you have a softer material and a brand new die, right, something that's sharp, something that's going to be able to cut easily, it's possible that in setting mode, your head will cut through the material. Typically for customers, that's not a concern. You'll just sidestep and do those cuts. If you want to make sure that you're not hitting your board any more than you have to, go into setting mode. If it cut through your material, then on the side here, there's also a dial. You'll twist that dial to raise the head a little bit, and that's going to keep you from cutting too far. Again, most customers aren't concerned about that. As your die starts to get dull over time, or if you cut a thicker material or a harder material, or as your cutting board starts to wear down and get a little bit of a divot built into it, you may have to turn the pressure up a little bit. And so again, that dial will just need to be twisted just a little bit in order to do a proper cut. The last control here is that roll speed. So on some of our previous videos, you may have seen that there's pinch rollers on this machine. Those pinch rollers will advance or rewind at a certain rate. So currently that roll speed is turned up pretty high. Now we can turn it down so it just barely creeps along. That may be necessary for you because you could have material that is more paper-like. So if it moves too quickly, it'll rip it. Or you have material that is a woven, a cloth of some sort, and if you stretch it out, it's gonna cut, and then when you relax it, it's gonna be all wavy, right? So you're gonna have to do some configuration with that roll speed to make sure it's right where you want it to be. Finally, the power switch. This is what turns your machine on and off. Be sure to turn your machine off when you're done with it. And if you're going to do any kind of maintenance on it, unplug it. If it's wired into a panel, if it's directly wired into your facility, have a disconnect of some sort. We don't recommend you do any maintenance on this in a circumstance where the only thing preventing the machine from misbehaving is this switch. We want to make sure there's some redundancy there. So pay attention, make sure that you're unplugging it. If you have any questions about maintenance, call into our maintenance department. If you have questions about features or levels of automation, or maybe you're looking at purchasing one of these presses and you don't know what type of configuration you need, especially with these traveling heads, which have so many features, call in, we'll talk you through it. If you need a machine that's like this one, and it's super basic, and it can just move side to side like you need it to, we can get you that. If you need a machine that's a little bit more automated, it does automatic compressions, we can do that. If you need a rotating head in order to nest your material, right? Maybe you have a die that is able to be rotated side to side to two positions, and you can get twice the cuts out of your materials. That's an option too. Sometimes you need a full CNC machine. So you need a machine that you can put your material on and the head automatically nests everything perfectly for you. We've got those too. Those are based off of a computer rather than just a PLC or an HMI. Some of our more advanced ones will have an HMI or a PLC built into it. So as you need more levels of automation or capability, the configuration and the controls are going to change a little bit, but we hope the usability and the reliability doesn't change at all. But again, before deciding you need something that capable, ask. We can see whether or not we can provide the level of automation you need at a lower price point. Or talk with us and maybe you say, hey, I want to do this with my machine. Can I do that? We might have to suggest, hey, you can do that on this machine, but it's not going to do it the way you want it to. You do need a CNC type machine. We'll try to get you right where you need to be. The worst thing, and I know I've said this before and I'm going to say it again, the worst thing we can do is undersell you on a machine. You'll pay the money and it won't do what you want it to do. And then you'll have to either negotiate a resale or you'll have to make do. And we don't want that to be the case. We want you to be happy with your machine. The second worst thing, and this is the one we stress the most, our sales department, our service department, our design department are going to constantly talk about, the second worst thing we can do is oversell you on a machine. There's no sense paying for more capability than you need. That does change a little bit if you're expecting to grow. If your company is expecting to grow significantly, then maybe we will try to talk you into a machine that's a little bit more capable in the near term, but that will be done with your design department or your safety department or your budget department to figure out what you need. If you're just a lone guy or you're just a lone girl and you're doing some kind of production, talk with us. We are very familiar with small businesses. We are a small business also. We will be able to work with you to figure out what level of automation you need. And then in the future, as you grow, maybe you need to upgrade this machine to be a little bit more capable. Maybe you need a roll stand or a rewinder, or maybe you need to upgrade to another machine that's more capable. Then we would look at getting you into one that's a lot more automated to limit the amount of man hours you need to put into your production, but also limit the amount of training that needs to happen if it's automated. Reach out to us. We're willing to work with you and talk through those options. And if this doesn't work for you, we have many other machines that are very capable and very versatile, depending on what kind of format material you're dealing with. Again, this is a review of the manual traveling head with pinch rollers. There are other types of traveling heads. Please review those videos if you have questions, or call in to us if you have questions. Thank you.